For my selective reading assignment, I chose to read The Tyranny of the Meritocracy, Democratizing Higher Education in America by Lani Guinier. The book challenges educators to reconsider the status quo, that test scores are the best indicators of an applicant's worth, and the author challenges us to reflect on what we want to value in a democratic society. Guinier uses the first chapter of the book to explain the difference between testocratic merit and democratic merit. She does this through the personal stories of two scholars, Clarence Thomas and Malcolm Gladwell. Thomas has argued that affirmative action has had negative consequences for minority students. It allows them admission into institutions where they are more likely to fail instead of into lesser universities where the opportunity for success is greater. He bases this assertion on his own academic struggles, where he often felt othered and left behind. Gladwell, a Canadian native, had a different college experience. He applied to and was accepted to his first choice, but that didn't matter because Ontario lacks the hierarchy of American universities. It was never a choice of where he attended college, but whether or not he did, and what he did with the opportunity when he got there. Gladwell likens the difference between Canadian and U.S. college experiences by comparing the U.S. higher education system to a modeling agency. U.S. higher ed is looking for the perfect student, already pre-formed, coming out of high school with perfect test scores and ready to conquer college. Meanwhile, Canadian higher ed is like the Marine Corps. They are looking for raw material. They are looking to mold the perfect student. In the second chapter, Guinier tackles U.S. higher ed's obsession with test scores, specifically the SAT. She posits that using the SAT as the end-all be-all of admissions is a multi-part problem. First, the SAT, while it does give some indication of how well students will do in their freshman year, is not a predictor of a student's overall college performance. Guinier mentions that if we only cared about the first year of college, college would only be a year long. Guinier also notes that SAT scores are closely tied with socioeconomic status and race. The higher a family's income, the higher a student's SAT score. Likewise, when sorted by race, Asian and white students average 250 to 350 points better than Black and Latino students. It makes sense that students with access to more resources would produce better scores, but it gives no indication of what less privileged students might be capable of if they had similar advantages. In the second half of the book, Guinier looks at institutions and scholars taking on the testocratic merit method of evaluating a student's worth. The first case study is Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts. The university was surrounded by a community in chaos. High poverty, high crime, deteriorating and abandoned buildings, gangs, and drug trafficking was destroying the very community Clark was supposed to serve. In an effort to combat this, Clark formed the Maine South Community Development Corporation, where it collaborated equally with residents, business people, clergy, schools, and local governments. In an attempt to level the playing field, they offered tuition-free college courses to any student that lived in an 8-block radius of Clark, so long as those students met normal admission standards. While this did a lot for single students, it did little for the community. And the community around Clark was mostly unchanged. In 1997, Clark founded the University Park Campus School, a college preparatory school that admitted only local students through a lottery system. The university works with the school, giving Clark enrollees the opportunity to complete work-study requirements and offering tutoring jobs at the University Park Campus School. The University Park Campus School teachers co-teach at Clark, and students of the Clark teaching program get the opportunity to do their student teaching at UPCS. The college spent money on improving infrastructure, offering affordable housing, and encouraging community engagement. It incentivized faculty and staff to move into the neighborhood by giving a $5,000 down payment toward a house purchase, a loan that is forgiven at a rate of $1,000 per year. Today, University Park Campus School boasts a 95% attendance, and 100% of their graduating class in 2014 got into college, 89% to four-year universities, and 11% to two-year colleges. There is a sense of urban community now and an improved future for the entire community. Another organization encouraging colleges to move toward a democratic merit system is the Posse Foundation. The founder of the Posse Foundation, Debbie Bile, met a young man in East Harlem who, despite being academically gifted, had dropped out of college because he lacked peer support that came from the same background he did. When she asked him why he had quit college, he said, "I could have done it if my posse had been with me." Much like Clarence Thomas, this student felt isolated and othered in higher education. Bile formed the Posse Foundation to combat this problem. The foundation offers group scholarships to groups of 8 to 12 students from the same urban areas. The posses meet weekly on campus and promote team building, offer support, practice cross-cultural communication, develop leadership skills, and encourage academic excellence in each other. Several students offer testimonials in the book about the advantages of having a support system that understands where you came from and can encourage you to keep going. The examples of democratic merit that Guinier discussed eventually lead her back to the value of test scores to higher education. She posits that this type of merit creates a pyramid-shaped meritocracy where everyone competes for a few spots at the top. It's individualistic in nature. She believes that educators who are finding new ways to create opportunity through interdependent learning is the future of education because it advances and supports whole groups versus singled-out individuals. Guinier does a thorough literature review, citing research from several scholars working on democratic merit. Mazur and Treisman have done extensive research on the value and benefit of encouraging students to value learning process over final scores. Dweck and Tuff discuss whether intelligence can be developed or is innate. Anita Woodley is working on research in collective intelligence, specifically how female group members improve group intelligence, and Scott Page is doing similar research on group intelligence with focus on minority groups. I found this book interesting and relatable to some of my own experiences in higher education. As an undergraduate, I worked as a supplemental instructor for freshman and sophomore core history and political science students. Supplemental instruction was voluntary lessons offered to students 3 times a week. I sat in on their class lectures and would take those lessons and transform them into supplemental material to help students better grasp difficult concepts. Part of the structure of supplemental instruction is that it's collaborative in nature. I wasn't there to give students the answers. We were there to work through their questions as a group with me as a guide. The instruction had benefits for all of us. The more classes I did, the more comfortable I became with the material. Likewise, students felt more comfortable asking each other questions, hashing out difficult concepts, and suggesting ideas away from the professor. They were able to pull each other up, be both student and teacher, and as a result, grasp the material better than students who did not attend SI. One of my criticisms of the book is that I personally cannot relate to the testocratic merit Guinier insists rules U.S. higher education. I was an atypical college student in many ways. I did not go to college until I was older, and I never felt like college was out of reach because of mediocre SAT scores. Ivy League colleges may be out of reach for some students based on testocratic meritocracy, but Ivy Leagues are out of reach for many students for other reasons, like cost and distance, for example. I believe that students with lower test scores still have viable and good options for higher education without overthrowing the current merit system. But I do agree with much of the research discussed in the book that suggests testocratic meritocracy is a poor predictor of college success And it can negatively impact students who do not test well by making them think or believe they are not capable enough to tackle higher education. Ultimately, I agree that we should look at other indicators to determine college readiness other than, or at least in addition to test scores. It's more important to make sure we are producing graduates who understand the learning process than students who memorized enough information to pass an exam. Cultivating student groups and creating cohesive learning communities with common goals is something universities have strayed from in the last few decades. I believe some of the ideas Guinier discusses in this book would help us move toward recreating those communities.